It's battery test time. We've got 6 phones on the block today. The Redmi K20 and K20 Pro. Then we have 2 new phones from Honor, the Honor 9X and the Honor 9X Pro. Next up we have the ROG Phone 2. This thing is an absolute specs monster and it's got the new Snapdragon 855 Plus. That is an overclocked Snapdragon 855. Very interested to see what the result on that phone will be. Then on the far right hand side we have the Xiaomi Mi 9, smallest battery of the bunch. This thing is definitely gonna go first, that is for sure. It's got a Snapdragon 855 but a small battery, and I know from previous tests that this thing goes early doors. Not to worry though, we're using that as a slight benchmark. First up is 5 rounds in a row of Antutu. Yes, 5 in a row. I don't have 15 hours to waste flicking through Weibo or Instagram on 6 phones. We are seeing how these phones can deal with an absolute whack. The ROG phone out in the lead, that's not surprising. And bear in mind that this is the new version of Antutu. It's been updated and everything scores higher. That is relatively higher than the previous version of Antutu. Even if it's the same phone, the same processor, you'll get a higher score in this version of Antutu. After those 5 rounds of Antutu, a fair whack of battery has been used. We're onto Bilibili, which is a video app, much like YouTube. As we know, people in China can't watch YouTube, so they have to do with apps like Bilibili. During those 5 rounds of the Antutu benchmark, these phones got seriously hot. Actually, the ROG Phone 2 was piping hot. I got a few warnings throughout the battery test that this thing was overheating and it needed a moment to breathe. I didn't give it a second though. This is a battery test and we don't have time to waste waiting for phones to cool down. Both the Honors are in performance mode. That gets a little more out of the processor but reduces battery life overall. Considering they have lower powered chips, I think it's fairer to boost the performance of those to try and get it similar to the Snapdragon 855 chips. The Redmi K20 has that Snapdragon 730, the least powerful processor of the bunch. Considering it has a 4000 mAh battery, which is the same as a couple of the other phones, it should do well in the battery test. But what I'm really interested to see is how the 6000 mAh battery in the ROG Phone 2 handles this test. It has a more powerful processor, so will draw more battery, but that 6000 mAh battery is so much bigger than all the other phones. And 2 hours into the test, you can see that the Mi 9 is just struggling a little bit. We're almost halfway on that battery at the moment. Of the other phones, it's really even. A few percentage points is the difference only. This is going to be a really tight one. I wonder who's going to win, because a couple of percentage points here and there is such a small difference at this stage. Moving on to the camera app, I'm going to take 4K 60p video. Every phone can do that except for the 2 Honor devices. In those 2, I have to record 1080p 60 frames a second video. I'm sure this Kirin processor is quite capable of recording 4K, but for some reason Huawei have limited that feature in these 2 Honor devices. It's because they're on the cheaper side and they want to differentiate those 2 cheaper phones from more expensive products in the Honor brand or in the Huawei brand. After recording video for about 30 minutes on each of the phones, now that's bearing in mind that each of the phones has a recording limit, especially when using 4K. So I had to record a few different videos and not one continuous long 30-minute video. After the time was up, I then took those videos and put them into KineMaster, or Qiaoying as it's called in China. This is a video app where you can import and export video. So we're going to take the video that I just shot through KineMaster, and I'm exporting just in HD quality on all of these. This isn't a speed test, and trust me, these phones are so hot. I had to just give the processors a little breather. So that video was exported over and over again for 30 minutes too. So at the 3-hour mark, the Xiaomi Mi 9 is still with us, just under 30%, and 3 of the phones are still above 50% battery. I'm just on Weibo now. This is the same as Instagram or Facebook. This will simulate your day-to-day social media usage. It is not very intensive on either the processor or the battery. The ROG Phone 2 has a 120 Hz refresh rate screen. It's not using that in this test. I chose 90 Hz refresh rate. The screen is one of the major selling points of the phone, and so I thought I should use at least 90 Hz and not 60 Hz. But maybe using 120 Hz is a little unfair on the phone, considering most people probably won't use that for day-to-day usage. Okay, after Weibo, I went into the respective app stores and downloaded Rdmi, which is a live stream platform. And we can see the Xiaomi Mi 9 has dipped under 20%. This thing is closing in on the end. Live streaming is or was very popular in China. It's not as popular as it was a few years ago. These live streamers can sit live streaming for 12 hours a day at least. But watching a live stream doesn't take too much out of the battery. The ROG Phone is a few percentage points higher than the competition here, but this is much closer than I thought it would be. So another 5 rounds of Antutu, 5 rounds back to back. Look at the ROG Phone scores, they have dipped considerably. Why is that? Because that phone was running so unbelievably hot. Even with the cooling system there, that 855, it's an overclocked chip and it will produce much more heat than the other chips here. After those rounds, the battery has dipped a lot on all of these. The Xiaomi Mi 9 is finished. 4 hours and 12 minutes that one lasted, and the K20 Pro is under 10%. Interestingly, the Honor 9X Pro and the Redmi K20 are neck and neck. The Redmi K20 has an OLED screen, and both of the Honor devices have LCD screens. At the moment, it doesn't seem to be affecting battery usage on those two devices as compared to the OLED screen competitors. Meitu is a picture sharing app. I'm going in and making some adjustments to some pictures. And the 9X has just dipped. It's now 7%, that one. And we're gonna do Antutu again until the very end. Let's drain the battery on these phones. And the K20 Pro has given up. 5 minutes and 29 seconds that one lasted. A very good result. Very interesting that both of the Honor devices have beaten the K20 Pro. That Kirin chip isn't as powerful as the Snapdragon 855. The next battle. Will the K20 have better battery life than the two Honor phones? They're in the same price bracket, so this is a real competition to see which one gives better battery life. So far it seems that LCD doesn't actually have much effect on battery, or at least Huawei have developed their phones to save batteries in other ways. So who will be next? Who is next to go? It's such a close race, this one. We're up to 5.5 hours, and there it is. The Honor 9X non-Pro variant, 5 hours and 32 minutes, a little longer than the K20 Pro, and it went before the Redmi K20. Who is going to win out of the Honor 9X Pro and the ROG Phone 2? And that's it for the Honor 9X Pro. I thought that it was going to keep going, but it switched off. 5 hours and 46 minutes. A fantastic result, but it got beaten by the Redmi K20 only just. So it looks like the ROG Phone might win this one. And there it is, 5 hours and 50 minutes for the Redmi K20. A fantastic result, but can the ROG Phone just get over 6 hours? Yes, it can. Just. There it is, 6 hours. It's beaten the 6 hour mark. 6 hours and 5 minutes for the ROG Phone